This is episode 68 of the SteadyTrade podcast with your hosts, Tim Bowen.
It's the abusive father technique.
And Steven Johnson.
I'm not doing so bad now. I'm doing okay. I'm on a green month now.
Sorta. Because Steven was a little nervous talking with today's guest. Because today, they're talking with the great and powerful Timothy Sykes.
If I was an unethical offshore broker, I would bet against Steven Johnson.
Now, what makes Tim Sykes so great and powerful, you ask? Well, how many people do you know who walk around with knowledge and experience like this?
And so now I go long. I primarily go long just because there's so many shorts now in the market that these squeezes are ridiculous. It's not just like a stock triples after 2 or 3 days. Now these stocks can go up 5, 10, 20, 50 times over several weeks. So,
or this.
You know, some people are like, Tim, I don't want to learn from your short selling videos from 7 years ago. It's irrelevant. On the contrary, it's more relevant than ever because you need to think how short sellers think, because if you can see that, then you can understand, wait a minute, there's all these shorts involved in this that can create the potential squeeze.
Or even this.
And I should also mention that, years ago, not as many brokers traded against their clients. Now you have a lot of brokers that recognize that 90 to 99% of clients lose money. So they loan out all the shares to short, and then they buy up the shares. Then they put out buy to cover alerts for their clients. So they make money on the commissions both ways, and they ride it up against their clients. And I just don't think a lot of
I can't believe something like that would happen on Wall Street, Tim.
It's a great episode today, and be sure to stick around to the very end for an extended Easter egg, an incredible video about rhino poachers in Africa made by Tim's friend Sam. And this shows a little peek into some of the things that Tim talked about that he does with his money to aggressively make this world a better place. Now watch it on our website or on YouTube to get the full effect. And now, Tim and Steven, sorta.
Welcome back to the SteadyTrade podcast. This week we have a guest that we've been looking forward to for 14, 15 months now. It took us that long to establish ourselves, to prove our worth to our friend, our business partner, our associate, Tim Sykes. It took us 14, 15 months to finally get him to come on the podcast. He's got a lot of stuff to announce, a lot of stuff that he's working on right now, so we thought it'd be a great time. We'd like to welcome you aboard, Tim Sykes. How's it going?
Thank you. No, I wanted to make sure that Steven could blow up a few times so that I could give him shit. Because if he just blows up once, then there's not much to talk about. Now he's blown up a few times, so now I have some ammo. So thank you, Steven Johnson, for all your
I'm not doing so bad now. I'm doing okay. I'm on a green month now. I'm up about $700.
Give it time. You'll start trading Facebook. You'll start drinking. You'll start ignoring the rules. Look, I made $400. I'm the best trader ever. Let me go all in. Let me throw out all the rules.
He's 15 days into sober October. So you basically just gotta wait till November, and then he'll be back. So
if I was an unethical offshore broker, I would bet against Steven Johnson, and I would do well because 90% of traders lose. Steven Johnson screws up 90% of the time after he has any hot streak. You're just playing the odds here. I would love to be surprised. That's why I'm bringing this up. This is my messed up way of teaching, but
this is my new mission, though.
Messed up himself, so we got to teach him using messed up tactics.
It's the abusive father technique. That's the technique.
I was nice in the beginning. I was like, it's okay, you'll get it back. It's okay. But that just didn't work. So we got to try everything. I'll go to the mats, I'll go to the mattresses, whatever we have to do to fix Steven Johnson.
No, my mission now is just to prove you wrong. Just to say I can do it. But it requires not drinking.
My tactics have worked. Make me the enemy. It's not anything to do with you or your lack of discipline. It's all me. Dude. That's fine.
You're not the enemy. You're not the enemy.
Am the enemy. Have a dartboard, put my face on it, and get angry. Once you get angry, then maybe you'll get disciplined. Anything except getting drunk and undisciplined.
Next topic.
So Tim, so you're working on a lot of stuff. We're actually, a lot of these episodes are a little time shifted because of the editing and everything, but it's the middle of October right now. You've just announced a project. Well, you've been working on the project for a while, but just announced kind of the rollout of the website. Also, a great video by Sam Colder. Why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about your latest charity project?
Yeah, so I've been trading for a while. The patterns have been working like better than ever. It's kind of crazy. I've got more students than ever. I'm in a good place, but at the same time, I see these problems in the world, and I see the potential of social media and like talking about these issues and getting them out there. So I started this charity called Karmagawa. It's basically the Timothy Sykes Foundation, but just with a new name, because I don't need any more stuff named after me. There's already enough Tims in our community. So Karmagawa, karma, it's good karma, right? Gawa in the Tagalog language of the Philippines. It means to do or to make. So you're basically doing or making good karma. So we have these hats and t-shirts. I probably should have been wearing a t-shirt. And we have tote bags and hoodies. And it goes to charity. And, we donate to over 55 charities now. I have a spreadsheet of like 1,000. I have actually like 13,000 charities that have contacted us, but we have 2 full-time people who research the charities. So I'm donating my own money. I'm donating DVD money. I'm donating now apparel money. And we're just trying to bring exposure. So it's not just about money. It's also about helping these charities get content because they do such a good job. Like VetPaw, this video by Sam Colder, they're former veterans who, now use their military skills to basically go after poachers and prevent these endangered species from going extinct. We don't realize that elephants and rhinos could be extinct in the next 5 or 10 years. That there's a problem, right? Like we know Africa has issues, but you didn't know how urgent it was. At least I didn't know.
Yeah,
so
and I didn't realize
the issues.
One of the things I didn't realize until Sam's video, which it'll be linked below and in the show notes, is which shouldn't surprise me because we know a lot of illegal drugs, the opioid trade and stuff like that. All of that stuff funds terrorism, but I did not realize that a lot of this poaching, rhino horn and stuff like that, not only is it, excuse my language, fucking bullshit. They're killing these, endangered animals, but they're then harvesting it, selling that, and then that money then goes to fund terrorism. So it's just like, it's a terrible circle all the way around.
Yeah, so you learn about these things. 40% of terrorism could, be funded by this because it's Africa and like there's no rules. There's a lot of sketchy stuff going on. And then, you have these Asian people who love, primarily the rhino horn. They think that it's like Viagra in their cultures. And I
think Steven, you tried that, didn't you? Did you try some rhino horn or not?
I haven't, but I will if it helps us cut losses. But no, but I heard that the people think that it will heal them if diseases like cancer and things like that. The thing that there's some cultural lucky charm to it, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of old wives' tales with it, and unfortunately, a lot of people are willing to pay big money for this, and it's no one's fault. It's just we need to educate. Like we're at this situation where there's only a few thousand rhinos left, and at current rates, we have 4 to 5 years left of rhinos. So it's crazy. Like even with all this education, and there's a bunch of charities that are working on this, the rates haven't gone down. And VetPaw only has like $1 million in funding. I've now donated $250,000 to the cause, but they need more funding. They have 10,000 veterans who want to come down to Africa.
Oh, wow.
Who signed up and they want to help protect the animals, but they need money because, it's not cheap to get someone down to Africa.
Well, and obviously these guys got to be compensated. They got to make a living. They can't.
Well, a lot of these veterans make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year as private security. So they're not going to make that with VetPaw, but they need a little bit. And when we were down there, like we didn't even have night vision goggles. We're going out on a night mission at midnight. There could be poachers. There wasn't any this one time. But, I was like, where's the night vision goggles? And they're like, that's expensive. I was like, how are we going out to protect these animals without night vision goggles? And I kind of lost my shit. So I donated an extra $100,000. They now have night vision goggles. I'm going back in a few weeks. So I'm going to test out these night vision goggles and quads and new equipment and stuff like that.
So tell us a little bit about, and just kind of quickly how they find it. So the name of Sam's film and maybe who Sam is and so on and so forth. So
yeah, so it's cool to donate money. It's cool for me to tell stories, but I'm not like a great photographer or videographer. So I've shared what I try to do here with Karmagawa with the whole social media community, and we've had 30 or 40 different photographers and videographers come on my trips. One of the best is Sam Calder, just a 22-year-old guy, but anybody who's into social media and videography knows him. I mean, he has his own transitions. He's an innovator. And he came to South Africa with us, and he made this documentary. It took, 8 months from the time when we went and with all his trips and editing. But it's called The War Against Poachers, or The War Against Poaching. And it's already gotten 250,000 views in like 2 or 3 days. People love it. Everyone's learning about poaching, terrorism, and what we can do. And we just want people to watch it and share it. Even if you have no money, you can still help fight this terrible thing, just by sharing it. Like, education is the key.
That's super cool. I mean, do you still have your foot down on opening all of the different schools as well? It was pretty cool when we were at the conference and we saw that Mark Crook had his first school now as well. Are you still accelerating?
So there's literally over 50 charities that we donate to. I still want to build 1,000 schools. We have 45 built in development. There'll be another 7 open in the next few months. So we're doing that, but I'll always build schools. Like, education is a lifelong thing, but with the rhinos, this is urgent. Like, if I'm making this video 3 or 4 years from now, there might only be a few hundred rhinos left. And then it's kind of tough to really do anything. Like, they'll probably clamp down on like the last 100, and then we'll have like genetically modified rhinos and stuff. But there's still something that we can do with a few thousand of them right now.
Do you think if I don't blow up another account, is it possible I don't need a school, but just like a desk or something, like the Stephen Johnson desk in the Mark Crook school? Can I just have like a desk?
I love opening schools. I love naming them after millionaire students. We have the Tim Grattani School, the Michael Good School, now the Stephen Ducks and Mark Crook Learning Center. Any successful student, you can get that. And you can also get rhinos. I actually donated $25,000 to take this one last rhino from a reserve that had 100 rhinos on it. There was only one left after all the poachers killed 99, and we transferred him to a vet paw reserve where he's safe. $25,000. Schools or rhinos, we're trying to save the world here, and it's a long process.
So, Tim, I think probably most of the listeners kind of are familiar with you, but just in case they aren't, we kind of launched right into what you're working on now. Why don't you, kind of give the Cliff Notes a little bit of who you are, how you got started, just in case some listeners maybe aren't familiar with your story.
Sure. I started with roughly 12 grand. My parents gave me control of my bar mitzvah gift money. They thought I would lose it all. They thought I would learn the value of $1.
So how old are you roughly at this point?
Like 100.
No.
And the depression. No, I'm 37 right now.
I'm saying when you got the money.
This was 20 years ago.
Okay.
So I turned the 12,000 into nearly 2 million in my first 4 years. Right place, right time. I'm in the stock bubble. I was just buying penny stock breakouts. I would sometimes make 50%. I would lose 30%. Very little risk management. But when you're in the right place at the right time, there's so much money to be made. For example, in the first 4 months of the year 2000, I made over $700,000 while a freshman in college. I had fake IDs taken away. I couldn't even go out. And I'm downloading illegal movies on like Merc. And, I still made 700 grand in the first 4 months. Then the stock market crashed and I lost 10 grand over the next 8 months. And I was forced to learn short selling. Then I made another $1 million short selling. So I've made a lot, and I made millions since, long and short. But I've made a lot, and now I just want to teach. I was in this TV show called Wall Street Warriors in 2006. It was basically a reality show. I was like Steven Johnson. I was drunk in every episode, and it works. The Steven Johnson method of likability works. And so me being trash got everyone all excited to learn stock trading. I started getting a ton of emails. So I closed my hedge fund down, not because we lost everything. I did have a big loss of roughly 30%, but we finished up 2% per year over 4 years. Fucking terrible. But I could have made it back if I had been focusing on trading, but I couldn't ignore all the emails when people saw me on TV and they saw how drunk I was. They wanted to learn. And so I started teaching. I became the #1 ranked trader at a 60,000 on Covestor, which was a website that popped up right when I got started teaching that verified everything.
Yeah, which is rough. That's kind of roughly when I found you, about 2007, 2008. And, you know, it was interesting. Because, you know, I'd never made any money trading, even though I had a lifelong interest in finance. But, you know, nobody was teaching this niche back then. You know, nobody talked about low price stocks, and nobody talked about short selling. And doubly so, nobody talked about short selling low price stocks. And as soon as I found you, kind of started learning this stuff, it was like, holy shit. Because those were the days, you know, I mean, practically everything was a one and done. They'd all spike, fade late day, and then break down the next day. So it was like, wow, there's this little niche that nobody was talking about. And back then, you were the only one talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, the TV show helped me understand how little people know about trading or knew. I would get emails saying short selling penny stocks is illegal, you're a criminal. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm using E-Trade to short. But a lot of brokers, when they can't find shares to short, and then, you know, their customers are calling them up saying, hey, why can't you short it? They just lie. Brokers
or their customers get destroyed trying to short these stocks.
Well, so I mean, the brokers
they kind of ignore it and be like, oh.
The brokers don't want people to short because they don't make enough, and there's unlimited risk. And in the hands of newbies, short selling is very dangerous, as we've seen a lot of shorts blow up lately. So the brokers aren't wrong, but it's not illegal. You can short. And so now I short, I go long. I primarily go long just because there's so many shorts now in the market that these squeezes are ridiculous. It's not just like a stock triples after 2 or 3 days. Now these stocks can go up 5, 10, 20, 50 times over several weeks. So it's just been better. And you've come to the same conclusion where, you know, we just go long and it's so much easier and less stressful. But there's still a lot of shorts who like punishment. You know, they have childhood issues like Steven Johnson, and they just want that pain to, you know, maybe they're
I don't think they, you know, and again, we'll let Steven give his psychological profile here, but I don't think some of these guys like Steven, I don't think they can feel pleasure without a little bit of pain. You know, I think do you think that's useful?
It's like the Goo Goo Dolls song. Sometimes you bleed just to feel that you're alive. And so it's like a psychological thing where they subconsciously want pain and they enjoy it, but then they complain, why am I losing? I'm not a therapist, okay? I don't pretend to be, but I just want people to profit. And if you have daddy issues, if you like pain, if you want losses, don't become my student. You're just going to make me look bad. You're going to make yourself look bad. I want to make people rich. And even if you have, you know, childhood issues, like when you're rich, then you can afford better therapists and get over it quicker. Throughout life because you can't fix them. Your therapists suck. They're going to drag you down your entire life. So if you do have these issues, that should be motivation even more to be able to afford the $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour therapist who will fix you.
Or possibly, you know, in Steven's case, maybe like an S&M type madam or something like that. Maybe that's something he should pursue.
Try different strategies, whatever works. It really doesn't matter. You know, like people judge different strategies and different tactics. If it solves the problem, if Steven needs, you know, some S&M mistress in his life to fix him, by all means, do it. But let's make sure she's a good S&M, not like some amateur S&M where, you know, it's just going to be bad. Like, I mean, the part of the reason why like 50 Shades did so well in movie theaters, Steven just kept going back and seeing it again and again. Like, he got banned from seeing this movie so much. It's like crazy. I'm like, Steven, come on, dude.
I had to fly to Kuwait to see it because it was banned here, so I just keep on getting plane tickets. But
he was the main subscriber of Movie Pass, so you could see unlimited movies. And then, you know, Steven now, like, he just got banned from all these theaters, so now Movie Pass is in trouble, and their whole business model is screwed.
But on one serious note, I mean, I think back in the day, shorts, it was easier to borrow a little bit, and there was less people shorting, and the market seems to have picked up more volume, I would say now. I think it's harder to short now.
No,
it's harder to short, but there's more shares to short. The brokers now have the demand, so now they're whoring themselves out, as brokers do, for commissions. So there's many more shares to short. I have a whole video called No Borrow, No Cry, with 77 different pump and dumps that had very little to no shares to short. Now almost every stock is shortable, but that opens it up to short squeezes. So it's good and bad. It's good that you're now able to short. It's bad because, you know, with great power comes great responsibility, and newbies have none of it. So you have these massive squeezes. So there's a lot more volatility. There's a lot more opportunity, especially from the long side now. So this is why, some people are like, Tim, I don't want to learn from your short selling videos from 7 years ago. It's irrelevant. On the contrary, it's more relevant than ever because you need to think how short sellers think, because if you can see that, then you can understand, wait a minute, there's all these shorts involved in this. That can create the potential squeeze. Some of the worst fundamentally fucked companies like DRYS goes from 5 to 100 in 5 days. That never happened a decade ago. That never happened 2 decades ago.
Yeah, I think, what has happened, the brokers have recognized that this is a huge profit center. I mean, remember, a lot of these brokers, they'll charge you, you're not only, you're not just paying commissions, but you're paying borrow fees, you're paying locate fees, and then also we know what's the number one thing newbies do? They get stuck short. They hold overnight. A lot of these brokers, they triple, quadruple your fees overnight. So what's, and kind of just to address your point, Stephen, it's easier to borrow now because they've opened it up, because I think they recognized that it's worth their risk management. They can make so much on these fees that if a lot of people blow up, they're coming out ahead.
And I should also mention that, years ago, not as many brokers traded against their clients. Now you have a lot of brokers that recognize that 90 to 99% of clients lose money. So they loan out all the shares to short, and then they, buy up the shares. Then they put out buy to cover alerts for their clients. So they make money on the commissions both ways, and they ride it up against their clients. And I just don't think a lot of
I can't believe something like that would happen on Wall Street, Tim.
I just don't think – I don't think there was enough volume or enough reason to do it a decade or 2 decades ago. Now it's common practice. And us talking about it, there's only going to be a few of us who are going to think, oh, wow, this is amazing. And it creates all this volatility, all these kind of niches where you can take 5, 10, 20, 30, 50% profits in a day or two with these short squeezes, with the ensuing morning panics. It just opens up so much opportunity. There wasn't as much volume 2 decades ago. So we're in a very good time. I've been waiting for a stock market crash just so I can get some sleep, but I'm doing a monthly recap video. Normally it was going to be like an hour. I have so many tweets and comments and charts. This is going to be like a 3-hour video lesson tomorrow with my monthly recap. Like, it's insane. I can't even keep up, and it's a good problem to have.
So, on that note, kind of, again, if someone's kind of getting to know you and what you do, explain, what you do on a daily basis, what the challenge is, what are the educational products, and, and kind of what are you doing on a day-to-day to teach people how to learn to trade these stocks?
Yeah. So aside from saving the world and the rhinos and the educational system all over the world, I'm also trading stocks still. I go back to $12,000 roughly every year, my starting roots, and I try to grow it. Like today, for example, I made 1,000. On Friday, I made like 3,000. On Thursday, I made like 500. On Wednesday, I think I lost 500.
Remember that, and that's trading with a small account too.
Yeah, so correct. Trading with a small account with small positions, because I'm trying to, teach you guys exact dollar amounts. Like, it does me no good if I trade with like a $10 million account and be like, look, I made, $300,000 today. It would be
Which is something that I rant about a lot. Something I talk about and we talk about on the podcast a lot is be careful who you follow on social media, because there's a lot of guys out there that are flashing big numbers, but you don't realize how much of daddy's money they got.
Well, there's daddy's money, and there's, paper traders. It's not necessarily real money. And then they're also risking a lot. Like, it's not enough just to say, oh, I made $50,000 today. How much did you risk?
If you were down 100, if you were down 100 at 10 a.m. and you made 50 at 2 p.m.
Yeah. How much leverage did you use? You really need to see people's entire trades. It's not just about their dollar profits or losses. Like, even if you have a loss, it can be a good loss because you cut losses quickly. A lot of newbies are discouraged by losses. Like, oh, I don't care what the stock did. I lost $100. I hate this. And then you might take a terrible trade, scalp like Alibaba and make 200 and be like, I love trading. It's not just about the money that you make or lose. It's the process. And can that process actually make you into a millionaire? And I'm very proud. We now have 5 millionaires with several more now in the 6 figures. Mike Huddy, new challenge student. Not new student, but new 6-figure student. He's been studying for 3 years. He just passed $150,000 in profits, graduated college, now making $5,000 a day. My student Mason, 2nd-year challenge student, He's, made 11 grand today. He's over 160. My trading challenge is where you have like live webinars, you have video lessons, you have mentorship, you have a curriculum. That's where all my millionaires are being created. So it's not just enough for me to trade and make videos. We have a whole team now, and I'm so grateful for everybody, including you guys.
Which, for the listeners, if you want to kind of go back, like Huddy is a great story. We did a podcast with him, I think last fall. I mean, talk about an amazing story. He started out with and we talk about it in the podcast. He started out with a $20 Robinhood
link the podcast below this. Too.
We will. Yep. Which he didn't turn that $20 account into his six-figure account, but it's just amazing. He started out with a $20 account buying, 1 cent stocks. And over time, staying diligent, studying, following the challenge, he's now a six-figure guy.
And Tim Grittani is my, biggest success story. Started with $1,500 of his own money. Actually lost his $1,500, ignoring the rules, ignoring rule number 1 about cutting losses quickly. Restarted with $1,500 of his own money. Now he's over $7 million in 7 years. But he made nothing for the first 9 months. So everybody who's like, "Ooh, I want to make millions," be prepared for nothingness, for terrible frustration and no money whatsoever for a year at least. And that's not fun, but that's reality. You need to learn this stuff before you can make big money. If you make big money too quick, you're like a lotto winner, you're like a childhood star, you're like a sports athlete who just signs a big deal, and you'll probably fuck it all up and lose it all. So it's important to learn the hard way. Even though we make fun of Steven Johnson, at least he's learning to lose small. Like, he thinks his life is over when he loses $500 or $5,000, and that brings on an all-nighter drinking in the bars. I mean, imagine if he lost $50,000 in a day. What is he going to do? Heroin for like a week straight? Like, it's better to lose small.
We did discuss he was considering taking up an opioid habit. So we did talk.
If you lose 6 figures in a day, I'm scared for you. So I'm glad that you're losing small, even though it's frustrating and it hurts. Losing small isn't going to affect your life one way or the other in the long run, but it's going to help you learn what not to do. And you have to learn what not to do to learn what to do. No different than like a newborn baby drinking, water. A newborn baby that's thirsty doesn't know like what steaming hot water is, takes a sip, burns his tongue. He won't drink the steaming water.
Hot water burn baby.
Hot water burn baby.
No, but I mean, with the likes of Huddy though as well. I mean, I remember Huddy. He had 1 year of losing, and then his second year he was back and forth. But the thing that it misses with Huddy a little bit is he consistently worked hard for 3 straight years. So he didn't try really hard in 1 year, then not try hard in the second year. He kept on going back to the DVDs. He kept on thinking, "I've just saw this pattern live. How did it trade in the DVDs? What does Tim Grittani say? Or what does Sykes say?" And then he went back to like reflect on that. And I don't think people realize like it's like 3 hard years of work. For some people, maybe others it's 2, maybe some it's 1.
But yeah, and even when you get it, like, you still have to learn. Even when you get a pattern, the market could change. You might be like 2 years in and be like, "I get it, I understand." And then the market changes and you're like, "I'm lost." That's the frustration. But the good news is it's not forever. Look, this isn't rocket science. You're not going to be studying for 10 or 20 years. Like 1, 2, 3 years, you're going to see quite a bit. And if the market changes, accept it. Go outside. Go live a little. Because when there's so many plays, like today, there was like a dozen good plays. You couldn't like throw a rock at one of these weed stocks that wasn't spiking 10, 20, 30%. I made $1,000. I underestimated YGYI by $3 a share. I underestimated PURA by like 30%, and I still profited on both. So it's not about perfection. It's about taking what you can every day, whether it's profits or knowledge or both.
Is that some sort of like water monster behind you? What is that thing?
This is a painting.
No, what is that creature behind you?
That's a sculpture from Murano, Italy. It's made out of glass. We watched them make it live, my parents and I. It was actually cool.
Okay. I thought it was like that. Was it like The Deep, where that monster like comes out and like shakes?
No, that would be cool if like I'm talking about it and then it just attacks me. Get that live. Can we do that in post, Glenn? Can we get it like?
So Tim, what do you got coming up? So we talked about what you worked with Karmagawa. We talked about the challenge what you're working on now. What do you have coming up? Any cool
just
projects?
more of the same. Like you have to learn to love the process. So I'm still going to be teaching. I'm still going to be trading, making video lessons. I have a 3-hour video lesson coming tomorrow, which is going to be insane. I'm doing an all-day live trading event on Friday for challenge students. That's going to be fun. You can go to Karmagawa.com. Now you can get these hats and shirts and totes and hoodies and more stuff coming up that's going to support schools and animals all over the world. And I'm going to keep taking trips. I'm going back to Africa in a few weeks, not just to VetPaw, but also to a new charity that we're supporting called DSWT, David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. And they basically take care of baby orphaned elephants. So you might see pictures of me feeding a baby elephant and trying to lift one, because apparently the babies are liftable. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm going to keep doing more of the same. And I think I want all of you guys to fall in love with the process, not just, what's something new that I can do? What's a new pattern? What's a new play? History repeats itself. And it's pretty amazing with these low price stocks. The same stocks that you might see on one of my DVDs from a decade ago or 8 years ago, it's still spiking, and it respikes. Not because the company is good, just because idiots buy the same hyped up news, the same bullshit sectors keep going. It's a beautiful thing that penny stocks are all based on individuals. Like, there aren't big hedge funds. There aren't the smartest, richest people in the world playing these, because there's just not enough money. The absolute best penny stock traders in the world only make a few $1 million a year. And that means there's not a lot of competition. That's a good thing. The top traders in the world make a few $1 million or a few $1 billion in a few days or weeks. Like, it's crazy the kind of money that's out there. But I don't want any part of it because it's too hard. Penny stocks, it's already hard enough, even though I think it's the easiest niche of them all.
So keep in mind, to the listeners, we did, if you want to kind of, or kind of reference to what Tim was talking about, the patterns repeating, we did I think 7 or 8 episode entire series on Trader Checklist. You can check that out in the podcast archives. You can also go to traderchecklist.com. It's all 100% free. Tells you about exactly what Tim is talking about. And then you can also go to timothysykes.com. He's Timothy Sykes everywhere on social. You can kind of check him out and get a good read of what he's doing. But I highly recommend Trader Checklist. You can't go wrong. It's all free. It really gets you started on what this niche is and how it is repeatable. There's stuff Tim's talking about in Trader Checklist from 3 years ago. Some of the stocks, same stocks we're talking about right now. Yeah.
No, I mean, I have to say as well, I've seen the vast majority of the DVDs, and it's funny because Trader Checklist is my favorite, and it's also free.
And it's also the least viewed out of all of them, because I go over 7 indicators, and that's too much for people. People are just like, oh, what's a good company? What's a good pick? And I'm like, well, there's a sliding scale. Like, it depends on what is the flow, what is the market, what's the sector doing. And people don't want to think in terms of multiple indicators. They just want one. So it's a little too complex for people, but frankly, you need, to think about multiple indicators. It'll increase your odds on literally every single trade.
Yeah, and if it's too complicated, watch it 3 times.
And it's not that complicated. It's just not as simple as you want it to be. Everybody wants this game to be what they want, and it doesn't work like that. The game is the way that it is. You have to adapt to what it is. The market's not going to come to you, okay? I know today, like when we're filming this, there's literally hundreds of students who have made $500, $1,000, even $5,000 or $10,000, and the game seems so easy. But that's just on days like today. Tomorrow, there might be no plays. And a lot of people have to understand this is not like a 9-to-5 job. You don't get paid hourly. It's being ready for the best plays, and then learning to take the foot off the pedal when there are no great plays. And that's tough for a lot of people, because you make money, you love that feeling, you want some more of it, but then there might not be any plays. Like, the market is not an exact science, and people have to learn. You might have 20 plays in 4 days and they're all amazing, and then no plays for a week or 2. And that's tough for people to accept. This is why we have to talk about it. I'm proud of you, Stephen, even though I'm kidding around a lot about this stuff, but like, you're getting better over time. You're learning the ins and the outs. And that's what it comes down to. You haven't made that much. You haven't lost that much in the grand scheme of things, but you've learned a lot. So while it might feel like, oh, he's spending so much time and not making money, it takes time to learn the foundation. You have to see how bad it feels when you lose money.
Well, and
people say, like, they're not cautious enough. Like, how do you prevent big losses? How do you make sure? Well, I say, well, take a fucking big loss, see how you feel, and then you never want that feeling again. Ignore all my rules about cutting losses quickly. Ignore all risk management. Just go crazy one time and see what happens. Go crazy 10 times. You might lose all your money. You might go into debt if you're short selling, but at least you'll learn to respect the rules. And I personally had a big loss. Even while I was running my hedge fund, I lost 500 grand investing in my best friend's dad's company, threw out my trading rules, no risk management, fell in love with the technology, turned out to be right about the technology, turned out to be right about the company, but after they declared bankruptcy and wiped out shareholders like me. So the market will teach you how to act. And what you can do is try to understand from those of us who came before you, oh, we're trying to teach you rules. We're trying to teach you guidelines. It's not an exact science, but we know that cutting losses quickly works. If you don't believe me, ignore it and see how you do.
Yeah, and I think, something that we talk about a lot is, I call him the golden boy because I love him so much. But, Tim Grittani, you mentioned it earlier in this. I mean, if for 9 months he made no money and Steven's 14 months, I mean, so basically, 6 months longer or whatever, or 7 months or whatever it is. But I mean, it's like maybe the best penny stock trader in the history of mankind made no money for 9 months and Steven's 14 months along.
I mean, for me, and what I will definitely say about the challenge is I had a year in the challenge, and I think that year it gave me the solid foundations for me to know what to do to trade profitably. And it was actually like month 13, I started to have like 6 green months out of 8. But what I then needed to go on to learn is discipline. So I learned from the challenge, I learned the foundations of how to become a profitable trader. And I thought, right, I know enough now to make money in the market. I know the patterns. I know how to trade the patterns. I've seen enough. But then it was a battle with myself. And that's been an ongoing battle that's slowly getting better and better and better.
I mean,
we'll see what.
Take away my first few years, but frankly, I was in the right place at the right time. I didn't learn my rules. I didn't have my rules down pat 7, 8 years in. So a lot of people just don't have the right mindset. You think that you're going to get everything right away. I mean, Tim Grittani, let's not forget, he lost all of his $1,500 at first. He lost everything, okay? Even though it was only $1,500, he blew up. Michael Good lost $100,000 before he started with me. He blew up. Almost every single top trader that I know blew up, and they lost everything. So if you don't lose everything, you're ahead of the curve. And think about where you'll be year 3, year 4, year 5, year 10. Okay, it's crazy. I'm texting Huddy, he's in year 3 making 5-10 grand a day now. And he's like, I'm excited for the future, not just, 3 months, but 3 or 10 years from now. It's cool once it all clicks, once you learn the process. But until you learn that process, until you get in the groove, it's frustrating as hell. It's amazing to see how it clicks for different people. Sometimes it takes a hot sector where like there's all these stocks running with the same pattern. Sometimes it's one trade. Sometimes it's just a gradual process. There's no clear way for me to get it to click. And even when it does click, you might get cocky and then go backwards. So there's different levels, but everyone should have like a 5-year time horizon on this. Where can you go in 5 years? What can you do today and every day for the next few years to put yourself in a good spot to take advantage of all the plays that'll happen in 5 years? The market's not going anywhere. It's always going to be around. So you have to put yourself in the best position to capitalize on the opportunities, whether it's today, a year from now, 5 years from now, or even 50 years from now. What can you learn? How can you be best prepared with the right broker, with the right position, with the right mindset, with the right plan, with the right rules? All of that plays a part in becoming a good, solid, consistently profitable trader.
Yeah, and it comes back to the. I remember a long while ago, about a year and a half ago, there was a basketballer, and he was looking back on his younger self. Was it basketball?
Yeah, Ray Allen, basketball player. Boring old habits.
And the key was just repeating, but there was a couple of things that was showing up. There was doing a little bit more work than everyone else, and there was staying in it for the long term. Those attributes of success are just exactly what you've just described. Be there every day and just be there for the long term.
Yeah, and it's not just about the big wins. Like, in that article, which you should link below, Ray Allen, Boring Old Habits, he won an NBA championship and he went into the dentist's office the next day. And the dentist is like, what are you doing here? Like, you just won the NBA championship. And it's like, well, it's another day. I got to go to the dentist. It's just like another day. So celebrate the highs and respect the lows, but also understand that it's a marathon. Any one trade doesn't matter unless you let it. If you go all in, you say, I'm done, screw it, let me just, go big. And if you win, that's cool. If you lose, then you lose everything. You should never come to that point. It's the process. It's the marathon. And I know that's not fun. That's not what people want to hear. But the process of becoming a millionaire is not fun. A lot of people tweet at me when I, talk about this stuff, and they're like, no, live every day like it's your last. And I'm like, well, you do that and you're going to end up with a shitty life your entire life. You're going to work for somebody else and you'll wish that every day was your last. Like, it's fun once you have the knowledge, once you have the self-sufficiency, once you have the money. I'm planning my fucking Africa trip. I'm going to spend probably $250,000 over 3 weeks because I fucking can. And I love that. I'm going to help the rhinos. I'm going to go see these beautiful waters. I'm going with a bunch of really cool people. We're going to document everything. That's the fun that you can have after you put in the time and hard work for years on end. Otherwise, don't do it. Go fucking Netflix. Go smoke your marijuana. Go play Fortnite. You'll look forward to the weekends because you'll have nothing else to do over the weekdays because you'll be working for a shitty corporation, for a boss that you hate. You'll be in debt all your fucking life, and you'll be miserable. And that's the majority of people. 75% under the age of 30 hate their jobs. Why do you think that is? Because they didn't put in enough time with their education. I'm not talking about college education bullshit. I'm talking about using the fucking internet, using this amazing time that we're alive in, where you have all the tools in your very own home or library if you're fucking homeless, and you can just use this tool to grow your mind so that you can then take advantage of the world in which we live. And it might not be penny stock trading. Maybe I can teach you, okay, here's some good things and bad things about trading. Maybe you'll get into the marijuana business too because it's exploding. Maybe that'll be your rise. Like, I get emails from people saying, Tim, you taught me work ethic. That's awesome. I didn't get into stocks, but I got into whatever sector. Do what you love, okay? Like, the world is so amazing. There's so many different ways to make money. There's so many different ways to enjoy your freedom. But the vast majority of people don't think outside the box. That's why we have to go in there with a motherfucking hammer and just, nail you in the head until you understand the opportunity that you have.
I don't think there's...
Put in hours, put in 10 hours, put in 15 fucking hours. Some of you guys are so lazy. Oh, there's so many video lessons. There's so many DVDs I can't watch. Shut the fuck up, you little baby, okay? You're going to live a miserable fucking life, and you're going to pay some therapists millions of dollars over the course of your life. You're going to pay alcohol companies and other fucking pharmaceutical companies millions of dollars trying to treat your fucking disappointment and your depression when you can fix it yourself by paying us for education that will change your motherfucking life. So get on it.
Yeah, I don't think there's ever been a better time. I mean, you talk about the explosion of the internet 20 years ago, but now, I mean, whether it even be YouTube or which is free, or all these paid products, I mean, there is no reason to be stuck. You've got unlimited opportunities to learn and grow. I mean, there really is, I mean, again, Tim actually donated to my local library. There's libraries you can learn. You can get books. You can get on the internet a library. I mean, yeah, it's going to take time and it's going to be hard, but man, there's never been a better time. And I think
it's only getting better. It's only getting better. Bowen is in East Bumblefuck, Michigan. Steven's in fucking Dubai. I'm in Miami on the way to fucking Africa. Like, the world has gotten very small. We've never had this in the history of mankind. We've never been so connected. And yet, because not enough people are utilizing this stuff the right way, like, they're doing World of Warcraft. Oh, like, let me talk on my fucking headset and talk with this guy. Oh, wait, you take the guy on the left. Shut the fuck up.
It's Fortnite. It's Fortnite. World of Warcraft. That's old news.
People are watching sports like, oh, my team won last night. Oh, my God. What did they win? What did they win? They made up a fucking war with a fucking piece of leather that they're kicking around and playing around with, and they're saying that's war. Why not take on some real fucking war that's going on in Africa that's life-changing, that's going to kill these fucking animals forever? Why don't you do something meaningful for once? Sports, entertainment, video games, it's all fine, but it wastes our fucking lives away. So don't do that. Focus on education. Focus on travel. Focus on your potential. Focus on this fucking revolutionary tool that we're using right now and utilize it to change your fucking life. I'm pissed.
Hi, this is Aaron, aka Double Aaron from New York City, and I like to go outside and find a stray dog, preferably an aggressive breed like a pit bull or a Rottweiler. Then I get real close, stare it down eye to eye until it starts to chase me. Then I run. That's right, I run while listening to Steven and Tim on the SteadyTrade podcast. You can register to win real actual prizes at their website, SteadyTrade.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the podcast a 5-star rating and write a glowing review on iTunes. I did, and this is how we say goodbye in New York City.
Back in February, I found myself face to face with a rhino about to have its horn cut off. Rhino horns have been a talk of great controversy for a long time now, and with the rising demand, the population of rhinos is rapidly decreasing. Poachers are risking it all to kill rhinos and get their hands on a horn. So why am I filming a rhino about to have its horn removed? It's a long story, and a tough one for me to tell. But after witnessing firsthand the events that happened before my eyes in South Africa, I knew it was a story that had to be told. So let me take you way back to the very start. It all started on an early morning hike somewhere in Hawaii. The sun had just come up from behind the horizon when I received a phone call. Hello?
Yo, what's up, Sam? Tim here. I just found this badass charity down in South Africa called VetPaw. They help save endangered species. We gotta tell their story, man.
Okay, hold up. So there's this guy I met when I was in the Philippines last year. His name's Tim Sykes, and I gotta say he's one of the most interesting people I've ever met.
I'm back with Tim Sykes.
The internet has changed everything. I'll teach anybody. That's the beautiful thing.
Tim Sykes is a self-made millionaire trader and the creator of the Millionaire Challenge.
Seen by the world as this incredibly wealthy stock trader who's gathered a following of countless people across the globe looking to him for insight into the world of finance, I've been able to get to know him personally and learn a little bit more about Tim.
Wealth and money for money's sake is not going to make you happy in life.
Money does not buy you happiness. You have got to identify your purpose in life, your mission, your reason for being.
Tim's reason for being? To help change the world one step at a time through his charity, Karmagawa. So that's Tim. And you know, I would never say no to an opportunity like this.
Nobody speak, nobody get show. Hey. Nobody speak, nobody.
So we are flying directly from Hawaii to Johannesburg, South Africa. And just like that, 14 hours later, we have landed here in beautiful Johannesburg. That night we met up with the crew we'd be spending the next week with. This is Matt. He'll be anyone in a dance battle and one of the best photographers I know. And then there's the twins.
Alicia and Renee, and we're twins.
Yeah, we're gonna have a really hard time differentiating you guys.
What more can I say? We top billing it.
And then there's Tim. I don't think anyone goes as hard as this guy in karaoke. And of course, he's the one that made this whole thing possible. We set out the next morning to our first stop in Zululand, an area east of Johannesburg known for its big open plains full of wildlife. After a couple of hours, we touched down in Zululand, where we set off by car to Minyani, a private reserve where they focus their efforts on animal conservation. Look at them. Look at them. This is beautiful. We went out for a game drive to check the surrounding landscapes and to catch our first African sunset. We managed to see some zebras and giraffes on our way back to camp. That night things started to get real when we received a briefing over dinner on what the next day would look like. I went to bed kind of nervous knowing what we were going to be witnessing the next day and the fact that I was going to be documenting it. The next morning we packed up and went out into the reserve in search for a rhino. I never understood why someone would want to kill one of these sacred animals until I learned that a rhino horn can sell on the black market for upwards of $500,000. Due to the countless rhino deaths over the last few decades, conservationists have been trying various methods to stop poachers from killing the rhino. But when it comes down to it, if the horn is left on the rhino, the odds of it being killed are far greater than without the horn. This has left many conservationists with no other option than to remove the horn themselves. This was the morning we set off to document the operation firsthand.
The reason why we do horning, I think it's important you know why we do it. We're not doing it for guest entertainment. It's not so that you guys can enjoy the experience. It's to prevent rhino poaching. We lost a lot of rhino historically. From 2014, we suddenly lost our first rhino, and that year we lost 8. The year thereafter, we lost another 6. And then 2016, we lost another 2. That's when we sat down and said, right guys, we need to make a decision.
Right now, there are roughly 5,000 rhinos remaining, and since 2013, roughly 1,000 have been killed each year. If you do the math, that doesn't give us much time until rhinos will be gone forever.
We're at the point now that if we don't do anything now, we'll lose both elephants and rhinos within 10 years.
The rhino would be tranquilized from a helicopter and tracked until sedated before starting the operation.
Let's rather dehorn because it does make it less attractive to poachers. In other words, increased risk of getting caught and very little reward.
So it's an emergency, it's a crisis, it's a war.
So here's the deal. Rhino horns are made up of keratin, the same stuff your hair and fingernails are made up of. Poachers will go in and cut off as much of the horn as possible, usually killing the rhino or severely dismembering its face. The footage you're about to see can be disturbing. This is a rhino after a poacher got to it, and to me, a clear indicator why people are devoting their lives to help protect these animals. Rhino conservationists cut safely above the growth plate, unaffecting the rhino's health and leaving a stump that grows back in 2 to 3 years. And because rhinos have no natural predators besides poachers, living without a horn does not make them more vulnerable out in the wild.
I just knew there was an injustice that I had the skills to assist in that injustice. And similar to the way that 9/11 hit me, seeing something, an animal like a rhino with its face cut off, die a miserable death, I just wasn't okay with that. And so I just kind of decided, if you're passionate about something that it hurts in your stomach, then you need to go after it. And so that's what I did.
In no time, the rhino was back up on its feet and reunited with its mother. As we left, it was reassuring to know our rhino friend would be safer from the threat of poachers out in the wild. We spent the next couple days learning about the other animal conservation work being done in Zululand before heading out to our next destination.
It's just the start.
This is one of 2 private reserves VetPaw protects year-round, day and night. A landmass spanning over 40,000 hectares, and because of VetPaw's active duty here, it is known to be full of wildlife, which of course inevitably brings in the attention of poachers.
Our property sits in a really unique location in Africa. We've got a lot of borders that are close by, and that means they can come in, poach the animal, and take off across a border and escape out of this jurisdiction. And so being here, we've been able to stop that from happening. We've never had a rhino or an elephant poached under our watch in 5 years, which we're extremely proud of. But the other thing that you have to watch out for is, as we step up our game, so do poachers. So we always have to be on the lookout. And the goal here is to create one of the largest rhino sanctuaries in Africa, and we hope to do that one day.
VetPaw stands for Veterans Empowered to Protect African Wildlife.
We utilize the skills of post-9/11 veterans who've served in Iraq or Afghanistan and other places throughout the world to empower park rangers and to train them in field tactics that we use in the military, and then they can then apply those to conservation and counter-poaching operations.
We got to spend an evening out on the shooting range with the crew to see them train firsthand. Although these guys do train with guns, they rarely ever have to use them. Something they use far more often in this war are dogs. This guy's name is Henry. He trains dogs in the battle of anti-poaching.
My partner against crime is Arrow. He's a 3-year-old German Shepherd. Arrow helps tremendously in the fight against poaching. His job is to track and find suspects.
Arrow is especially useful when it comes to tracking at night. Because of this, the crew is able to track poachers without using light and giving up their position.
Yeah! Nice!
Vetpa also takes care of several lions and a leopard that were all rescued at a young age. We got to go into their enclosure and feed them. A pretty wild moment that I'll never forget. We spent our last evening trying to track down some elephants. Just as the sun was about to set, we spotted a few off in the distance.
That's the lions. Are they close?
Is it gonna
That's
though?
extremely close. Yeah.
On our last night, we were invited out on a night mission with the crew. Most poaching happens at night because poachers can operate unseen under the radar. So Vetpa regularly goes out and patrols, especially on a new moon when it's the darkest out.
You guys are the first people we've ever taken that are not a part of that ball.
On our drive out, we learned something completely new none of us had heard before.
It's been proven that Al-Shabaab and Boko Haram, which are...
That this was not just a battle between conservationists and poachers, but terrorists as well. We learned that poaching funds many terrorist organizations around the world.
It's well documented that poaching funds terrorism and terrorist cells all throughout Africa. Even in Al-Shabaab, it's reported that approximately 40% of their operational costs and funding comes through poaching.
So we just made it to our first location. We're parking the cars and we're gonna climb this mountain and scout from there.
Poaching right now is at the extreme level. I mean, they're poisoning, they're using IEDs in some places, improvised explosive devices, high caliber assault rifles, tranquilizers even, to put the animal down so that you can't hear gunshots.
From the observation point, we set off to the border of the property where one of the crew spotted some fresh spoor. It's pretty insane watching these guys do what they do firsthand. Like, there's absolutely no way I would be able to find footsteps in the middle of nowhere.
We've got fresh spoor, which is a footprint.
This is within probably an hour or two.
We followed the footprints to a common pathway animals take in that area, which led us to a snare trap that was set up within the past couple of hours. A simple yet very effective and deadly trap that squeezes tighter on the animal as it tries to pull itself out. So it looks like it's the end of the night. We've been out for a couple hours. We've managed to find a snare trap that was set up within the past 2 hours. Yeah, it's a successful night. We managed to gather one more snare and potentially save one more animal's life. We're gonna call it a night and head back to base camp. Before we knew it, we were looking at our last sunrise in Africa. Jacob, Matt, and I went out on our last game drive to say goodbye to this magical place.
Matt, everybody. I think that we all had like this amazing time, like just learning about stuff and seeing all the work that you're doing. And I know like what you're doing, it's like a thankless job, you know. I mean, every single day, like you're fighting the good fight, and not many people give you props that you deserve. All talk aside, I mean, you guys need money and you need better equipment. So I know like I donated the 75,000, but I'm going to donate 100,000 more.
Thank you so much, man.
After seeing these animals firsthand and the unseen effort and dedication VetPaw and their team were investing, it made me grow a new sense of respect and understanding towards the battle of anti-poaching. The reason I made this video was to raise awareness, and the reason I'm sharing it with you is because I believe we have the power to make a historic impact in the war against poaching. The harsh reality is we have reached a crucial time in history. Helpless animals are under the urgent threat of being eradicated from our planet. And depending on what we do or don't do, we can lose rhinos in the next decade. By sharing this video, you can help raise awareness towards this serious issue. And by donating, you can go a step further to help organizations like VetPaw expand and advance in the war against poaching.